Hello, World of Tank Blitzers. It's a Littlefinger, part 3 of the garage. After update 7.9 and the new tutorial fails to fully train you, I figured I'd put a 3-part series together. Part 1 covered everything on the top, Part 2 on the left, Part 3, this series is going to be on the bottom here. Um, just disappointed with the new tutorial, and I felt like some of you newer players were going to be overwhelmed jumping into the battle. So, what I wanted to first talk about was the filter here on the right. As you can see, if you've got a lot of tanks, it's going to take you a while to find the tank you want. So you can come in here and you can filter it by tier. You can filter it by the tank type. And again, like I said, these symbols are going to come into play frequently in this game. Light tank, medium tank, heavy tank, and tank destroyer. Then you can filter it if there's a 2x multiplier, 5x multiplier, which is the birthday tank. We'll get to that in a second. That has a 2 times credit earning, and then just the 5x boosters. Or if you've got tanks that you've pinned, you pin them by double tapping on it. And that'll put a pin. So basically what I've done is I've pinned every tank that I have yet to ace in the game. You can sort by tanks that do not have all of the equipment. So let's just take a look at this, and you see it's showing me that I have upgrades available on this tank, and this blue star being combat experience. We've got plenty of combat experience in this tank, so we can go ahead and research it. And we still have combat experience in this tank, so we can research the top gun and mount it there. So now when I go back to the filter, you'll see that there's no tank in my garage that isn't fully upgraded. And then, as I mentioned before, you've got tech tree tanks here. The yellow are the premium, and blue are collector. Most of the lower tier collector tanks were tech tree tanks once upon a time. At update 5.5, Wargaming took them out to make the lower tier tech trees more streamlined. And then, of course, you've got your nations. Hybrid nation, European, you know the flags. You can figure that out. So let's just take, say, a quick look here at Tier 8 German TDs. Okay, so this is my selection. We've got the Ferdy, RHM, Scorpion, the Jagdtiger 8.8, and the JP2. Alright, so each of these tanks here has all of the crew, upgrades, camo, consumables, provisions, ammo, and equipment. So let's jump into what that means. The biggest thing here, and we talked about it in the first video, was your experience points. And remember, for each battle you're getting combat, free EXP, and crew EXP. The crew helps you train your tank up to 100% crew, and it also goes towards your crew experience points. Now, excuse me, I have a video put together on this, which hopefully the link shows up above, and there should be a link down below to that video. This is really important and something that doesn't get much attention whatsoever, because each of these are for, again, these symbols: light, medium, heavy, and tank destroyer. And they all do different things. Hasty shot, 7% chance of making an accurate shot when a dispersion is more than 100% higher than this minimum value. Breakthrough, increase tank acceleration by 7% if you are at least 2 enemies within 50 meters of your tank. And so this video that I've got linked to tells you which ones you should get first and which ones you should wait until later. After you've got them all mastered, they apply for all of your tanks. So you can see, I mean, the effects change greatly from 4 to 28% here. Faster repair time for broken modules. So it's really critical that you get these in order, and obviously that you fill them all out, because you're giving up a huge advantage to players that already have them, right? So make sure you watch that video and follow through with training your crew in the proper order. Upgrades comes into play primarily for your tech tree tanks, and as we saw in the new tutorial, you do have to upgrade guns, engine, and tracks on just about every single tank. Um, Typically, my suggestion would be to upgrade the gun first, and then worry about the engine and tracks later, because you're being able to pen other tanks and do damage is definitely more critical than slightly changing your mobility with the engine and the tracks. Now, one thing to point out that if we go to upgrades in a premium tank, since there's no tech tree line, you basically just have the equipment as is. There's nothing you can do to change it. There are a few exceptions to this rule. There are a few tanks that have two guns on them. Um, the next one is the camo, and camo does give you an advantage. A 4% concealment for TDs. I believe it's 3 for mediums. But you know, that's not nothing in this game. And it's interesting to see quite a few players not installing camo, um, when, you know, the resupply can be for free, and it doesn't really cost you much, um, in terms of credits. So you can go through and, you know, you can have a different one for summer, winter, or desert maps. Like if we wanted to, we could just go ahead and unlock this and replace it, and now that is our summer camo for this tank. We have a winter and a desert, so there it is now. um, Consumables, they don't really talk much about this in the training either. I have a pretty standard layout for mine, which is the repair kit, the multi-purpose, and adrenaline. Different tanks have different consumables, so not really the place to get into this just yet. Um, but just keep in mind that these, you do have to pay these credit fees to replace them each battle, if you use them, right? The provisions do similar things. They increase, like the chocolate bar here, increases your view range, your damage per minute, your reload time. Um, it can be optional. You don't have to have these turned on. So whereas the consumables, if you use it in battle, you pay for it. These, as soon as you go into battle, you have to pay to replace, because you've gone into battle with them attached to your tank, essentially. Ammo. Again, this is another one of those tricky places here where, oftentimes you might fall into a trap of paying for your premium ammo with gold. So make sure that this is always on that silver button. You don't want to be paying gold for your ammunition on premium. What you'll notice is on most tanks, not all tanks, most tanks, your pen ranges from 223 to 247 on this tank, whereas on your premium it jumps up. So it gives you the ability to pen typically up tiered tanks. So if this is tier 8, you're going up against a tier 9, you have a better chance of penning and doing damage. But the downside is, you'll see here, is that your damage numbers are lower. 195 is the low roll, 263. And the reason for these variables here is that there's something called RNG. Basically, we call it, a random number generator that is a 20% plus or minus to your standard uh, damage value. So depending, depending upon if you have good luck or bad luck, you might high roll or low roll on how much damage you do to another tank. Keep in mind also, HE is not discussed. Just about every tank in the game has HE. Usually the pen is really, really low, so this would be used for shooting the backs, sometimes the sides of lightly armored tanks. But again, big increase in how much damage you can do if you get a shot to fully pen. Otherwise, you're going to do splash damage. And I have a video on armor, and ammo types. So check that out as well. It should help explain that. And then equipment. I've got a 9-part series on each of these. when you would choose to have one or the other, make sure you check out those videos too. And essentially the way the equipment works is you have to unlock all of these in the top row before the second row unlocks. So basically you couldn't come down and do the left column first. You have to go row 1, row 2, then row 3. These all cost credits. The good thing is that if you don't like what you've chosen, you can switch for free. There's no penalty for switching there. Um, so it does change some of the characteristics of your tank. Especially like for a TD, it's going to give you 7% concealment, and that's doubled if you're stationary for 3 seconds and you've got that camo net fully activated. Whereas a light tank would benefit much more for improved optics and being able to see further. So that there is the bottom part of the garage. So hopefully these 3 videos combined together make this a little bit more appealing and not so scary. There is a lot in this section right here, which is why I have separate videos on them. So please make sure that you check that out. And I apologize again on Wargaming's behalf for putting together such a crappy training tutorial. They spend so much money on production of other videos that I thought that they would be able to come up with something much better than what they've done. And hopefully that doesn't dissuade you from sticking with the game. And of course, guys, for those of you that have been around for a while, remember, get educated, not fingered. Littlefinger out.